I'm your host, Nick Ginsberg, and you're listening to The Open Drive, a podcast focusing on authentic living and defining your own path against the odds. Hi everyone, welcome to the Open Drive podcast. Thank you for listening. Welcome back as always. If you're a return listener, if you're brand new, hello. This is the final episode of the 2021 season. So thank you for listening in, and thank you so much for listening in for the past now 2 seasons. So last year and this year. I really appreciate you listening. I appreciate all the love and support that I've received from this podcast. I've loved hearing from everyone. And on that note, if you are not following me yet on Instagram, please make sure you do. Head over. It's nice and easy. Nick Ginsberg, all one word, and you can find me. And make sure you comment and say hello when you come and follow me, because I would love to hear from you. And that has been a big highlight of this, because podcasts are very much a one-way street communication-wise. It's me talking to a microphone, you listening. But I don't necessarily want it to be like that fully. So I want to hear from you. I want to hear your side of things. I would love to try and make it a two-way street as best as possible. And just before we dive into the rest of the episode, I do want to remind you that this podcast does cover off on some heavy topics. So we will talk about childhood trauma, we'll talk about addiction, mental health issues, all of that stuff. So we've reached the end of the season. It's episode 12. Let's dive in. So this year started, I would say, with some hope. And I think I speak for everyone when I say that. 2020 with COVID was really challenging. And I think we all went into 2021 thinking that this year would be somehow better. I can tell you, for me, it was not. But it doesn't mean that it was a complete wipeout of a year. It was still, I'm still very grateful for the year that I've had, but I could have done without some of the things happening, absolutely. As I record this in Melbourne's 6th lockdown. But that's okay. That's all right. We need to keep everyone safe, so I'm happy to do my part. But this year for me started out with a glimmer of hope. There was a hint of what was to come, but in no way did I think that 2020 would turn out the way that it did so far. We've still got months left. So we'll call this a recap of the first half of the year, shall we? So towards the beginning of the year is when we found out in more detail Louise's prognosis around her cancer. So if you haven't listened to that episode, a brief summary: she found a lump on her neck, sort of where her neck and her shoulder meets, and she left it because she thought it was nothing. She went to the GP. The GP said, we should probably go get this tested. So that's what she did. So they sent her for a million different tests. And as they sent her for more and more tests in the early part of this year, I thought, I'm not sure this is going to be great. But I didn't expect it to be what it was. That's for sure. So cut a long story short, we found out that Louise has breast cancer, which has spread essentially throughout her entire body. So it's in all of her lymph nodes, almost all of her bones, but predominantly in her chest, her hips, and there's a few other places, but most of the joints are affected. So we found that out. The doctors gave her 2 years to live at the beginning of this year. I'm very happy to report, well, hold on, before I happily report on one thing, I will let you know an update. She actually fell and broke her arm. I did say this in the podcast, it snapped, which is sorry for anyone that was eating when I said that. And she spent a really long time in hospital for that. I think she was in hospital for maybe 2 months. It was a long, long, long time. I've lost track of time, but she was there for a while. But other than that, I'm happy to announce that she's doing well. The cancer is doing okay. She's got great team, a great palliative care team who are managing symptoms. She's not in palliative care, so she's not in a ward. She's at home, and she's living her life essentially kind of normally at the minute. So she's heavily medicated, but she's still able to do things, and she's still able to walk across to the shops, and she's still able to do all the things that she usually does. She also now has a therapy bird. I didn't know they were a thing until she told me. So she has a therapy bird, which is very exciting for her. I'm very happy for her. But she's doing well. So her next oncology appointment is in a month, and we'll hear more then. But very happy that her symptoms are at bay and she's able to kind of carry on, which is all I can ask for, really. And then the other thing to happen this year, which is the thing that I could probably have done without, is losing Mum. So when Louise fell and broke her arm, the night before Mum had fallen, so she'd fallen in her bathroom at the aged care facility that she lived at, and so I got the call for Mum, then got the call for Louise, and it was around the same time, and Mum had fallen, and that sort of set off a series of events for Mum that ended up being the end for her. So that was a really tough time, and it's funny. I keep, I don't want to forget any of the moments that have happened around that, as really painful as it is to think about. I just don't want to lose anything from it. So I've been really trying to think and remember, and which is why part of the reason why I've been so open in these episodes is so that I can listen back, and I have listened back to my episode where I talk about what happened with Mum, because I recorded that quite soon after, and it's great to have sort of a online journal, as you will, that you all get to hear. So that was a really tough time, and to be really frank, it took me a long time to feel back to normal again. That has really only happened in the last couple of weeks. It knocked me harder than what I thought it would. I knew that I'd be devastated. I knew I'd be sad. I didn't realize how exhausted it would make me. I didn't realize how flat I would be. And that's kind of what it was. So it's been full on. So she passed away April 3rd. So what are we now? We are 5 months down the track-ish. And yeah, it still kind of feels like yesterday. So that has been quite challenging, really challenging. But as I said in the episode, I'm really just so grateful that I got to spend the time that I got to spend with her. So a month before she passed, I got to get up and see her before her fall, and I got to see her, and I noticed that her dementia had gotten slightly worse. She was a little cranky, but I got to spend some time with her and have a good laugh and do all of that stuff. And then I managed to make it up before she passed away. If you haven't heard that episode, I got to spend a couple of hours with her, which was incredible. We talked, we laughed. I tried to hide the fact that I was crying. I wasn't very successful at that. I can promise you. And none of you have seen me cry. Actually, there's probably a handful of people on here who are listening that have seen me cry. I'm really an ugly crier. My whole body shakes. Like I'm dramatic when I cry. So I tried very hard to hide it from Mum, but it didn't work so well, because I'm that person where I try and hide it and then all of a sudden I go So I couldn't do that. So she heard. And even right through to the end, my mum was incredibly nosy and paranoid around certain things. And that had everything to do with her mental health state. But my auntie was on the phone to someone when I was in the room with mum. And mum completely stopped talking to me, and all she wanted to understand is what her sister was doing on the phone and what was she talking about and who was she talking to. So that was a good laugh. And I shared this, and I do want to share this again in this episode, so apologies for hearing it again. But mum had said the day that she passed, oof, I also thought I was going to go, because my auntie had said to her, Marg, I thought I was going to lose you. Mum said, oh, me too. And then she said, but I only got halfway through saying my sins, so I can't go yet. And when I heard that, I laughed so hard. And we had a good chuckle about that when I got into the room and got up there. So that was lovely. And then I was with her when she passed, and that was incredible. So that's been... and when I say incredible, I mean it was incredible that I got to get there and that I was with her and that she knew I was with her. And I guess it was incredible for me as well. But yeah, that was quite hard. But we got to sort of say everything. I got to tell Mum that she had nothing left to ask forgiveness for. There was nothing there that she needed to worry about. And that had really come about from the earlier on in the year, where my psych and I talk about forgiveness and anger, and that forgiveness is not about the other person. Forgiveness is about me and how I react and how I feel in a situation. And so I was able to do that with both Mum and Louise, which is a very big thing. Really big thing. And if you haven't listened to those first few episodes of this season, please make sure you go back and listen, because it was very much sort of life-changing. And I'd forgiven Mum for the majority of things well before she'd passed. Well before, sort of when she was first sick, sort of 8 years ago. But Louise was quite recent, so end of last year, beginning of this year kind of thing. It was very much something that was new. But with Mum and Louise, this year has been full on. COVID unfortunately stopped us from being able to spread Mum's ashes yet, which is I'm okay with, because I know that she's safe. She's at my auntie's, and we will get a chance to do it early next year. But that was hard. Absolutely, and not being able to do that. This year, though, I've learnt, or really it's reiterated to me, how important taking time out for yourself and self-care and really stopping and recharging is. So this year I took my foot off the accelerator for obvious reasons, and it's exactly what I needed. I pared back everything. So if it wasn't something that I had to do to keep money rolling in, e.g. going to work, even that I ended up taking some leave days, but I pared everything back. And it is exactly what I needed. I needed to be able to sit on my own or sit with Ricky and process and understand everything that's happened and understand my feelings and feel sad and feel happy and, go through all of that stuff. And one of the things that for this season of the podcast I wanted to sort of reiterate is that there's two things. So there's our main sort of message, which I'm going to end on for this episode. But then there's this one, which is you need to give yourself mental health holidays. Now, that doesn't mean jumping on a plane, because where are we all going? It's COVID, we can't go anywhere. But it means being able to stop and give yourself a break. So mentally check out. And that can be a range of things that you do. It can be going for a walk. It can be listening to music on your own. It can be singing and dancing. It can be watching your favorite TV show. It can be any of those things. And I do all of them, by the way. The singing and dancing is a bit wobbly. Although dancing I'm good at. Singing, not so much. But I give it a red hot go. But doing those things are so important because it allows your brain to shut off. And you're not overthinking, you're not thinking about anything, you're just focusing on what's happening. And adding that to your routine is key. So for me, I get up and walk every morning. That is the first break I give myself, which is before I've even had breakfast, before I've showered. I literally get up out of bed, put on my trackies, and out I go. And it gets my day started right. And it's not about losing weight. It's not about being healthy. It's not about any of that. For me, it is about clearing my head to start the day. That's it. That's all it is. So I urge you to please make sure you are factoring that stuff into your routine. Make sure you're giving yourself a chance. Because even if you haven't had a year like mine where you've had some wobbly events, you still have stuff that you're going through in life that you need to process, right? So you should still be doing stuff like that. It's really important. So I really wanted to say that. Also, the final thing that I want to talk about, which is really like a full circle thing, because this is the first thing I spoke about last year. You are in charge of your life. Just you. No one else. There is no one else that is in charge of your life. It is you. You get to create your own path. You don't have to follow what life has dictated for you. You can break that cycle and do whatever it is that you want. If you've had a childhood like mine or a life like mine, that doesn't mean that you then need to be an addict or live a certain lifestyle because that is all that you've known. You can look for inspiration outside of your home, outside of your friend group, outside of your family, whatever it is, and then decide what it is you want for yourself in life. A reminder, when I was a teenager, I went, I'm not drinking, I'm not going to do drugs, I'm not going to smoke. I want to look after myself. I want to be the opposite of my parents. And that's not to, again, not to say that I hated my parents, because I'm sure it's clear by now I don't. But I didn't want their life for me. I knew that I could do better. And so that's exactly what happened. I focused on it, and I made sure that every time a fork in the road came up, or a decision, I actively chose the one that would get me to where I wanted to go. And that meant throughout high school saying no to drinking. It meant in high school saying no to drugs and smoking. It meant that I had to resist huge amounts of peer pressure. And I've still done that. I've never drank. I've done, okay, again, I've lied. I've done like 2 sips. And I can't do it. Wasn't for me. That is not what I want. I knew that if I was to do that, I would end up in a very similar place as my parents, and that is not what I wanted. So even if your life is completely different to mine, which it is, because everyone has their own life, there will be aspects of there could be aspects, of your life that you aren't happy with. You have control over that. Think about what it is that you would be happy with and start actively choosing the path to get you there. It's not easy. I don't ever want to come across that this was an easy sort of me skipping down the lane. It was not. It's hard work to actively choose a certain path. But you can do it. I've done it. And there is nothing that I would change. I've managed to create a life for myself that I'm incredibly, incredibly proud of. And one that I don't think anybody that knew me as a kid thought that I would ever have. It was not a possibility in their head. So, before we wrap up, I want to thank you again for listening. I want to thank you for always tuning in. I appreciate everyone. I love hearing from you. I love hearing your stories. I've heard some incredible stories. I've heard some stories that are incredibly similar to mine. Which, even though I know that there are people out there that are like me, that have had the same childhood, which is the whole reason why I'm doing this, is so that they know that there are others out there. When you hear that back, you go, oh my God, you're right. There are people out there that are like me. I've loved hearing that. And I can't believe that I've been able to do 2 seasons of this podcast and have people still want to listen in. I still hear from you, and I'm just incredibly appreciative. So thank you so much. I hope that the rest of the year is incredible for you. I hope that you look after yourselves. I hope you are safe and healthy. And keep an eye out for next year. I would love to do another season and update you all on what has been happening in sort of the 6 months in between, or the 12 months in between. So enjoy the rest of 2021. Thank you again. I will talk to you soon. Have a fantastic rest of the year. See you later.